have finally arrived. You are here, standing at the precipice of a new reality. But let us be very clear about how this happened. You did not crash through the gates of higher consciousness through sheer force of will. You did not earn this position by suffering enough, bleeding enough, or struggling through the mud of your own existence until the universe finally took pity on you. There was no cosmic alarm clock that rang out across the galaxy declaring that you are finally worthy of love or abundance. No, you are here for a much more subtle, much more powerful reason. You are here because the war inside of you has finally ceased. The ancient resistance you have carried like a heavy shield for decades has dropped. That relentless questioning, that desperate seeking, that frantic need to intellectually dissect every single moment before you allow yourself to live it, it has all gone silent. And in that profound silence, in that void of mental noise, something miraculous is beginning to take root. You are finally ready to receive. However, this specific moment is incredibly easy to miss because we have been conditioned to expect Hollywood theatrics. We expect the sky to crack open. We expect a choir of angels or a blinding flash of light that knocks us to our knees. We think readiness announces itself with thunder, but it does not. There is no golden certificate handed down from the ether. There is no booming voice from the heavens validating your journey. Instead, the signal is terrifyingly simple. It is so simple that the complex mind wants to reject it. You are here, right now, engaging with this frequency, and you feel no urgency. There is no desperation clawing at your throat. There is no anxiety whispering that if you do not understand this instantly, you will be left behind. That absence of pressure, that lack of psychic weight, is the ultimate indicator. It means your energetic system has finally stabilized enough to let the truth land without causing a short circuit. Let us dismantle a major misconception right now. Nothing is being downloaded into your brain at this exact second. There is no external energy beam being fired at you from a distant star system. There is no secret frequency activation crossing dimensions to fix you. The change is not in the signal. The change is in the receiver. The change is in your capacity to hold what has always been present. For months, perhaps even for years, your internal state has resembled a stormy ocean. Your waters were chopping and violent. Every single thought you had created a ripple that turned into a wave. Every emotion sent a tsunami crashing across your awareness. In that chaotic turbulence, nothing could settle. Clarity could not form because the surface was too disturbed. Insight could not land because the landing pad was shaking. It was not that you were unworthy. It was not that you were broken. It was simply that your field was too unstable to hold the frequency of the new. But something has shifted in the geometry of your spirit. Perhaps you did not even notice the exact second it happened. It was likely a gradual cooling, a slow settling of the sediment. Your attention stopped lunging forward into a catastrophic future that has not happened yet. It stopped violently yanking itself backward into a past that is dead and gone. Your attention started to rest. It began to settle right here, in the 0 point of the now, without the addiction to be anywhere else. We call this the healing phase, though even that word can be misleading. You do not need fixing because you were never broken in the first place. However, your observational field, the quantum lens through which you collapse reality into being, has been fragmented. It has been shattered like a mirror dropped on concrete. Now, for the first time in a very long time, that mirror is fusing back together. It is becoming whole. This did not happen because you used the right technique or bought the right crystal. It happened because you stopped disturbing the water. You must understand that the quantum field does not care about your desperation. It is not moved by how badly you want a specific outcome. It does not respond to your hustle, your grind, or how many times you scream your affirmations into the void. The field responds to one thing and one thing only: the stability of your presence. When your presence fragments under the weight of stress and fear, reality reflects that fragmentation back to you. It sends you scattered, chaotic, broken signals. But when your presence holds steady, when you become an immovable pillar of observation, reality finally has a clear surface to reflect what has been waiting for you all along. The vast majority of seekers completely bypass this phase. They miss it entirely. They are addicted to the highs. They are waiting for something massive, something that feels like an explosion of the soul. They want the lightning bolt. They want the weeping on the floor. They want the overwhelming sensation that their entire identity has been incinerated. And because they are scanning the horizon for a hurricane, they walk right past the gentle, subtle recalibration that is actually taking place in their cells. They mistake the quiet for emptiness. They confuse the absence of emotional intensity with the absence of movement. But you are different. You are tuning into a different wavelength. If you are still here, if these frequencies are resonating in your chest without making you feel like you need to run out and fix your life immediately, then you have crossed an invisible threshold. You have not stepped into a new level of achievement. You have stepped into readiness. This is the readiness to receive exactly what you have been asking for without collapsing under the weight of it. Reality is benevolent. It does not send you what you cannot hold. It is not withholding your blessings to be cruel. It is not testing your patience like a strict schoolmaster. It is waiting for your energetic container to be strong enough so that when the abundance pours in, it does not shatter the glass. And now, quietly, without any fanfare or parade, that stabilization has occurred. Your healing phase has effectively begun. This is not because you are starting to heal, but because you are finally stable enough to let the intelligence of life heal you. We must ask a fundamental question. What happens when the observer stops fracturing itself? This is the question most people never ask, because they are asleep to the fact that they are breaking themselves in every moment. Think about how you have moved through your existence up until this point. Every time uncertainty arose, your attention splintered. One part of you jumped 10 years into the future, trying to predict every possible disaster. Another part of you pulled back into the archives of your memory, searching for old traumas to justify your current fear. Another part of you stayed frozen in the body, analyzing whether you were safe. This splitting of your consciousness, this constant fragmentation of your own power, is what creates the sensation of being stuck. It creates the fog of confusion and the weight of overwhelm. The quantum field cannot respond to a fractured signal. It requires a unified point of observation. This does not mean you must be perfect. This does not mean you must be an enlightened master floating on a cloud. It just means you must be a point of consciousness that is not constantly dividing itself against itself. When that unity forms, even if only for a few minutes, reality begins to reorganize around you. This is physics, not magic. It is not because you are manifesting or attracting or vibrating at some impossible frequency. It is because you have finally stopped introducing static into your own broadcast. Most of the noise you have experienced in your life did not come from your job, your partner, or the economy. It came from your own observational field collapsing and reconstructing itself 500 times a minute. Each collapse sent out a distorted wave. Each reconstruction tried to compensate for the last distortion. In that continuous, exhausting cycle of breaking and rebuilding, clarity was a mathematical impossibility. You were not receiving garbled messages from the universe. You were receiving crystal clear messages through a broken radio receiver. But now the equipment has been repaired, the receiver has steadied, and it did not steady through force or rigid discipline. It steadied through exhaustion. You essentially got tired of your own drama. You got tired of maintaining the fragmentation. You became exhausted with the effort of holding yourself together, of monitoring every thought, of policing every emotion to make sure you were spiritual enough. In that surrender of exhaustion, you accidentally let go of the very mechanism that was creating the instability. The first thing you will notice is a shift in your internal rhythm. There is a pause now. It is barely perceptible, a microsecond of space between an event happening and your reaction to it. You did not create this pause through willpower. It appeared on its own because the compulsion to immediately interpret and label everything is fading away. In that tiny, sacred pause, the healing phase does its work. This is not just healing from trauma, although that is certainly part of it. This is healing from the habit of self-interference. You are no longer rushing to understand. You are no longer rushing to decide. You're no longer rushing to manufacture meaning out of every sensation, every thought, and every moment of uncertainty. The mind that once demanded instant answers to feel safe has gone quiet enough to allow actual information to pass through the gates. And when actual information arrives, it does not come dressed as a story. It does not come as a debate. It comes as knowing. It is complete. It is wordless. It requires no explanation and no defense. This is the stabilization of the cognitive channel. It is one of the primary ways the stabilized observer begins to interact with the quantum field. The information simply arrives whole. There is no deductive reasoning process. You do not connect the dots A, B, and C to get to D. You simply suddenly know D. You know something you did not know 5 seconds ago. And strangely, that knowing does not create excitement. It does not make your heart race. It just sits there, stable and heavy like a stone, available for you to pick up whenever you need to reference it. Many people dismiss this profound knowing because they are addicted to emotional knowing. They want the chills. They want the tears. They want the cinematic swelling of music in the background. But emotional knowing is often just the mind creating a dramatic play around information it does not trust yet. True cognitive awareness is calm. It is almost boring in its simplicity, and you move forward, and there is no narrative attached to the knowing. It is efficient. It is clean. It is the difference between reading a map and simply knowing the territory. Then, there is the channel of spatial awareness. This one is more abstract, harder to pin down with language because it does not operate in words or mental images. It operates in felt geometry. You begin to sense structure, relationship, distance, and alignment. A direction in your life that felt wide open yesterday now feels physically closed off today. You cannot explain why in rational terms. You cannot give a bullet point list of reasons. A decision you were agonizing over for weeks suddenly loses all its weight. It becomes light as a feather. There is no logical reason for the change, just a felt shift in your internal landscape. This is not intuition in the mystical fairy tale sense. This is pattern recognition operating below the threshold of conscious thought. Your nervous system is reading coherence and incoherence in real time. It is mapping the invisible relationships between the elements of your life and feeding you that complex data as spatial orientation. When you are in alignment with a person or a project, you feel expansion. When you are out of alignment, you feel contraction. And this is not an emotional contraction like sadness. It is a structural contraction, like a door quietly clicking shut in a hallway. Finally, there is boundary awareness. This is the rarest of the channels and the most misunderstood. It shows up in the liminal spaces, the edges of sleep, the moments of deep rest when the body releases its tension, but consciousness remains crystal clear. There is no separation. There is no astral travel or leaving the body. It is simply a recognition that your awareness does not require the same level of physiological activation that you thought it did. You can be deeply relaxed, hovering near the state of sleep, and yet be fully, vibrantly present. This continuity of awareness across different brainwave states is the ultimate signal that the observer is no longer collapsing. Most people touch this state and immediately try to grab it. They try to turn it into a technique. They try to make it happen on demand. And the moment they reach for it, it vanishes like smoke. Because this channel only opens when there is no grasping. It opens when there is no trying, no effort to maintain the state. It is pure allowing, and allowing cannot be practiced. It can only be permitted. These channels of awareness are not a ladder. You do not climb from one to the next. They are simply different frequencies through which the stabilized field receives data. Some days, you will operate primarily through cognitive knowing. Other days, you will navigate by spatial sense. Sometimes the boundary awareness will flicker in and out like a lighthouse beam. None of this needs to be tracked on a spreadsheet. None of this needs to be optimized. The only thing that matters is whether your foundation stays stable when these channels open. You must understand that not every intense sensation belongs to these channels. The mind is a master of special effects. It is brilliant at creating experiences that feel significant to feed the ego. Vivid imagery, emotional surges, bodily sensations that seem profound. These can often just be the nervous system processing old waste. It can be the imagination filling in the gaps, or the ego creating a spiritual drama to maintain a sense of specialness. The test of truth is not how intense the experience feels. The test is what happens after the experience fades. If your life becomes simpler, clearer and less burdened, then the channel was real. If your life becomes more complicated, if you feel a desperate need to explain the experience to everyone you meet, if you have to work hard to hold on to the memory of it, then it was noise. It was static. Real awareness does not leave you with homework. It leaves you lighter. In this healing phase, you will likely move through all these modes of perception without trying to. Information will route itself through whatever channel is most efficient for the moment. And the beautiful thing, the truly liberating thing, is that you will not need to decode it anymore. You will not need to sit down and journal for 3 hours about what each message means. The information comes packaged with its own context. It comes with its own application. It is already integrated into your operating system by the time you become consciously aware of it. This is what it means to be stable enough to receive. It is not that you are receiving more volume, it is that what you receive can actually land without being distorted by your own interference. The healing is not about fixing the broken parts. It is about stopping the habit of breaking what is already whole. We are taught from a young age that we must force our way through obstacles. We are taught that the only way to get from point A to point B is through massive exertion. But in the quantum realm, force creates resistance. When you push against the universe pushes back. This is Newton's third law applied to metaphysics. You cannot force yourself into readiness. You cannot manufacture stability through grit. Effort, by its very nature, implies that you are not there yet. The moment you try to reach a state, you are confirming to the field that you lack that state. That confirmation creates a gap, a separation, and separation creates tension, and tension fragments your observational field. So you end up using the very mechanism that prevents arrival to try to arrive. It is a cosmic joke. Linear progression works for linear goals. If you want to build a house, you lay one brick after another. If you want to run a marathon, you train mile by mile. But consciousness is not linear. It is holographic. The observer does not improve through accumulation. It clarifies through subtraction. We are not adding anything to you. We are taking things away. We are subtracting the constant monitoring. We are subtracting the perpetual self-correction. We are removing the endless internal dialogue about whether you are doing it right, feeling it right, or understanding it right. All of that mental chatter is interference masquerading as diligence. You think you are being responsible by staying vigilant, but what you are actually doing is preventing your system from self-regulating. True stability does not require a supervisor. It does not need you to hold it in place with your mind. When you stop trying to maintain the state, when you stop checking the oven every 5 seconds to see if the bread has risen, the state that was always there beneath the effort finally reveals itself. We have arrived at the paradox that sits at the very heart of your transformation. It is the mechanism that keeps the vast majority of seekers locked in a perpetual loop of seeking but never finding. The mind, in its infinite desire to be helpful, loves a method. It loves a technique. It craves a 10-step plan that it can execute with precision. It wants to do something because, in our 3-dimensional conditioning, doing feels like productivity. Doing creates the seductive illusion of control. If you are doing, you feel safe. If you are working, you feel worthy. But we must confront a hard truth. In the domain of consciousness, doing is often the poison, not the cure. The more you frantically do spirituality, the more you confirm to the quantum field that you are lacking the very thing you are chasing. It is a feedback loop of lack. The more you confirm something is missing, the more your observational field fragments to search for it. You become a hunter, and peace becomes the prey that constantly outruns you. But when you finally stop, when you cease the relentless churning of the spiritual hamster wheel, a very particular kind of space opens up. It is not an empty, barren space. It is an available space. It is a fertile void. This is the space where information can finally arrive without being filtered through your desperate agendas. This is the space where clarity can emerge without being squeezed into the shape of your expectations. This is where reality begins to respond to what you actually are, rather than the exhausted character you have been trying to become. This shift into non-doing does not mean you become a statue. It does not mean you sit on the couch and wait for the universe to deliver pizza and enlightenment. You do not stop taking action in your life. You are not resigning from existence. What changes is the source code of your actions. It changes the origin point of your movement. Before, your actions were born from a place of deficit. You acted to fix, to improve, to prove, to compensate for a feeling of inadequacy. Now, your actions begin to rise from a different wellspring. They come from the part of you that simply responds to what is present. That responsiveness is faster, cleaner, and infinitely more accurate than anything your strained effort could ever produce. You will know you are letting go of force when your decision-making process undergoes a radical simplification. It does not necessarily become easier. Challenges will still arise, but it becomes simpler. The agonizing overthinking drops away. The endless weighing of pros and cons, the mental gymnastics of trying to outsmart future timelines, it all begins to dissolve. You see an option in front of you, and you either move toward it or you do not. The binary becomes clean. Both responses feel valid. There is no second guessing, no sleepless nights wondering if you made a catastrophic mistake. There is just movement or stillness, and both are honored as sacred expressions of the moment. Alongside this, you will notice that the texture of your motivation changes. This is a subtle sensory shift, but it changes everything. Before this phase, motivation felt like pushing. You had to rev your engine, hype yourself up, and push your body and mind forward against a gradient of resistance. Now, motivation feels like permission. It feels like a gate opening. There is a massive energetic difference between pushing and permitting. Pushing creates friction. It creates heat and wear on your system. Permission creates flow. When you are pushing, you are secretly fighting against a part of yourself that does not want to go. You are in a civil war. When you are permitting, all parts of you are aligned with the movement. The friction vanishes because there is no drag. As this new alignment takes hold, you will find that some directions in your life that once seemed critically important will suddenly lose all their voltage. They will go dead. You will not have to make a dramatic decision to stop pursuing them. You won't need a breakup letter or a formal resignation. They will simply fall away like dead leaves dropping from a tree in autumn. There is no drama in a falling leaf. There is no sense of loss or failure. There is just a quiet biological recognition that the season has changed and this path is no longer alive. Other directions will open up, not because you went out hunting for them with a machete, but because you stopped blocking the view with your frantic effort. Your mind, however, will likely panic during this transition. It is terrified of the void. It will scream at you that without force, without constant pressure, without the whip of discipline, you will stagnate. It will tell you that you are losing ground, that you're falling behind, that everyone else is racing ahead while you are just drifting. But this fear is a lie. It comes from the part of you that is still addicted to measuring progress linearly. It thinks life is a straight line from birth to death, and the goal is to get as far up the line as possible. It does not understand that consciousness moves in spirals. It moves in cycles. What looks like stagnation on the surface is often profound integration happening in the depths. When a seed is underground, to the surface observer, it looks like nothing is happening. It looks like death, but down in the dark, the greatest transformation of all is taking place. Here is the secret no one tells you. Most of your previous stagnation was actually caused by trying too hard. You were so busy adjusting your approach, correcting your mistakes, and optimizing your process that you never gave anything time to actually settle and take root. You kept digging up the seed to see if it was growing. You kept stirring the water, frantically trying to clear the mud, not realizing that your own hand was the source of the disturbance. The healing phase is the moment you finally take your hand out of the water. You stop stirring, and clarity returns not because you found the right filtration technique, but because you stopped applying techniques altogether. This can be incredibly disorienting at first. You are a creature of habit, and your habit is self-monitoring. You are used to tracking your state like a hawk, checking your progress, measuring your vibration. When that compulsion fades, you might feel lost. You might feel like you have lost your map. But you are not lost. For the first time in your life, you are not following a map that someone else drew. You are moving according to the internal compass of what is actually present. You are navigating by the stars of your own direct experience, not by the flickering fluorescent lights of societal expectation. Take a moment right now to feel the weight of this. Pause the need to understand this concept perfectly. Pause the urge to figure out how to apply this to your career or your relationship immediately. Just notice, can you be here reading these words without needing this moment to become something else? Can you exist without the pressure to extract value? Can you simply be present with what is, exactly as it is, without the itch to improve it? If you can do that, even for 3 seconds, you have touched the felt sense of non-forcing. That is what stability feels like. It is not elevated. It is not floating 3 inches off the ground. It is not glowing with golden light. It is just here. It is ordinary. It is without resistance. And from that simple, humble presence, everything else becomes possible. But here lies the trap. The moment a shift happens, the moment you touch that clarity, your mind wants to grab it. It wants to tackle it, stuff it in a jar, and label it. It wants to turn the experience into an identity. This is where most people lose what they have gained. They lose it not because the shift wasn't real, but because they tried to own it. The moment you try to own a shift, you step out of the state that allowed it to occur. You step out of the flow and into the museum of your own history. Think about the last time you felt truly, deeply clear. Maybe you were walking in a forest. Maybe you were driving in silence. Maybe it was just a Tuesday afternoon and for no reason at all the noise stopped. You were suddenly here, aligned, whole, and then what happened? A thought arose, a whisper from the ego. This is it. I found it. This is what I have been looking for. I need to remember this feeling. I need to lock this in. I need to make sure I can get back here tomorrow. And the moment that thought arrived, the clarity began to curdle. It began to fade, not because you are being punished, but because you moved from experiencing to possessing. You moved from being the space where clarity exists to being a person who has clarity. Those are two very different frequencies. A person who has something must protect it. They must guard it. They must maintain it. They must build walls around it to ensure it is not stolen or lost. That defensive posture creates the exact fragmentation you are trying to heal. You start monitoring your state again. Am I still clear? Is it fading? Oh no, I feel a negative emotion. I must be losing it. What did I do differently 10 minutes ago? Let me retrace my steps. All of that monitoring is interference. It is static. It is the noise returning. Slowly, the clarity you were trying so desperately to preserve gets buried under the sheer effort of preserving it. This is the insidious trap of spiritual identification. When an experience becomes part of how you see yourself, it is no longer free to move. It gets frozen in time. It gets calcified. It turns into a memory that you keep returning to, a standard you keep measuring yourself against. I used to feel so connected. Why don't I feel that way now? What is wrong with me? These questions seem innocent, but they are actually pulling you out of presence and into a constructed image of who you think you should be. You are comparing a living moment to a dead memory. True shifts do not need to be remembered. They do not need to be catalogued. They integrate so fully into your biological and energetic operating system that they become invisible. You do not walk around all day thinking about the fact that you are breathing. You do not congratulate yourself for the fact that your heart is beating. These are integrated processes. They are automatic. When a consciousness shift fully integrates, it becomes equally automatic. You do not reference it. You do not talk about it. You just live differently. The difference shows up in your choices, in your micro behaviors, not in the stories you tell yourself and others. Here is the litmus test to know if identification has formed. Do you feel the burning need to tell people about your shift? Do you feel the urge to broadcast your breakthrough? I'm not talking about natural, organic sharing with a close friend. I'm talking about a sharing that seeks confirmation. You want them to look at you and acknowledge, yes, you have changed. You are radiating. You are on a new level. That hunger for external validation is the signal that the shift has not actually landed yet. It is still hovering in your mental field. It is still a concept, not an embodiment. If you need someone else to confirm it, you do not actually have it. Another sign is that you start feeling separate from people who don't get it. You look at your family, your colleagues, your old friends, and you think, if they only understood what I understand, if they only saw the matrix the way I see it. You might wrap this judgment in language of compassion or pity, but underneath, it is a subtle sense of superiority. It is the ego constructing a new pedestal. I am awake, and they are asleep. Any identity, even a spiritual one, creates separation, and separation fragments the field. It cuts you off from the source. The deepest shifts always return you to ordinariness. They do not make you special. They make you more human. They make you more relatable, more grounded, more comfortable with the messy reality of being alive. If a spiritual shift makes you feel elevated above humanity, something has been misunderstood. The experience was likely real, but the interpretation has been hijacked by the part of you that is terrified of being nobody. Letting go of identification is not about rejecting your experiences. It is not about denying that you have grown. It is about not carrying your growth around like a badge of honor. It is about not using your insights as proof of your worth. When you stop feeding the identity, something fascinating happens. The shifts can return, but this time they return in a new form. They are less noticeable, less flashy. They are less named. They are more woven into the fabric of your daily living. You find yourself making different choices without analyzing why. You end conversations earlier when the energy drains, not because you are judging the other person, but because you simply respect your own field. You walk away from situations that once would have hooked you into hours of drama. You say no without a paragraph of justification. You say yes without overexcitement. These small, boring adjustments are the real evidence of transformation. They are the gold. We are not looking for the peak experiences that blow your chakras open. We are looking for the 1,000 tiny recalibrations that happen when you are no longer performing a version of yourself. At this stage of your healing phase, the invitation is terrifyingly simple. Let the shifts be. Let the moments of clarity come and go without trying to capture them on film. Let yourself change without announcing the change on social media. Let growth happen so quietly, so subterraneously, that even you do not notice it until you look back 6 months later and realize you are no longer living in the same reality. When you drop the need to be someone who has shifted, you become available to actually shift. You become a fluid process rather than a solid object. You enter an ongoing state of fluidity that responds to life in real time. This is what true stability means. It does not mean holding a rigid pose. It means being flexible enough to move with the earthquake without losing your center. If you are listening to this and feeling like you are becoming less instead of more, if you feel like you are losing your definitions, losing your edges, losing your specialness, celebrate. That is the feeling of inflation leaving the room. The constructed spiritual identity is dissolving, and it feels like a death because it is a death. But what remains when all of that costume jewelry falls away is not nothing. It is the actual you. It is the you that does not need to be impressive, the you that does not need to have the secrets of the universe figured out, the you that does not need to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. And from that humble, ordinary, fertile ground, real transformation becomes possible. Not because you are trying to transform, but because you have finally stopped preventing transformation by trying to own it. This brings us to the mechanism of response. How does reality actually respond when you reach this level of stability? You must understand that reality does not move at the speed of your expectation. This disconnect is what creates the most confusion during the healing phase. You have done the work. You have stabilized. You have let go of the identity. You are ready to receive. And then silence. Nothing dramatic happens. No sudden lottery win. No instant manifestation of the soulmate. No radical restructuring of your external circumstances. The car still needs gas. The sink is still leaking. And the emails are still coming. The mind starts to spiral. Did I do something wrong? Am I actually ready? Was this whole thing just a delusion? But here is the physics of what is happening. Reality is responding. It is responding powerfully. It is just not responding on the timeline you imagined, and it is not responding in the way Hollywood taught you to expect. The response comes first as reorganization, not as reward. Before the new furniture can be brought in, the old rotting structures must be demolished. What no longer fits your frequency starts to fall away. This is not a punishment, it is a recalibration of density. What does fit begins to reveal itself, but it happens slowly. It happens subtly. It shows up through opportunities you would have missed a year ago, because you were too busy looking for neon signs. The first change you will notice is internal. It is in how you approach the friction of choice. Where you used to stand paralyzed by options, terrified of making the wrong move, you now find yourself navigating with a strange, quiet confidence. It is not that you are certain of the outcome. It is that you are no longer paralyzed by the fear of the outcome. The fear of missing out, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure. They don't vanish. They are still there, floating in the background like clouds. But they don't take the wheel anymore. They don't drive the car. You acknowledge them, and you keep driving. Underneath the fear, you sense what actually fits. You sense the resonance. This way has energy. That way is dead. You trust that information enough to move your feet, and reality loves that trust. It responds to it, not immediately, but cumulatively. Each time you honor that quiet knowing, instead of overriding it with your logical, fearful mind, the field registers a signal. It says, okay, the pilot is awake. We can start sending better data. But this is where the danger lies. This is where people stumble and fall back into the old loops. They expect reality to respond with additions. They want more money, more love, more recognition, and sometimes, sure, that happens. But more often, in the early stages of stability, reality responds with subtractions. Things that were barely holding together finally snap. Relationships that were surviving on habit alone drift apart. Jobs that tolerated you but did not value you suddenly become unbearable. The ego screams, I thought I was ready to receive. Why is my life falling apart? But your life is not falling apart. Your life is falling together. What wasn't built on stable ground is finally collapsing so that you don't waste another decade trying to prop it up. Reality is not taking things away to hurt you. It is removing the blocks. It is clearing the runway. Space is being created. And space is not the same thing as emptiness. Emptiness feels hollow. Space feels pregnant with possibility. When something falls away, it leaves room for precise movement. You are no longer navigating around giant obstacles that don't serve you. You are no longer spending 80% of your battery life maintaining situations that drain you. The energy returns to you. It accumulates. You become a reservoir of power rather than a leaking vessel. Reality also responds through friction. This is counterintuitive. People think alignment means everything becomes smooth as silk, but often alignment increases sensitivity to friction. It makes misalignment visible much faster. Before, you might have stayed in a toxic conversation for 3 hours before you realized you were being drained. Now, you feel the drain in 3 minutes. You feel it in your solar plexus. It feels repulsive. That is not regression. That is high-definition sensitivity. Your instrument is tuned. You are detecting the dissonance early. The gift of early friction is that you can course correct with a nudge instead of a crash. You don't have to total the car to learn the lesson. You just turn the wheel slightly. This is the beauty of the stabilized timeline. You stop paying the stupid tax of wasted time. You don't invest 6 months in a project that is doomed from the start. You feel the lack of flow in week 1, and you walk away. You don't drag out endings. You honor the friction and you adjust. No drama, no blame, just gentle, ruthless recalibration. There is another form of response from the field that is incredibly easy to overlook, because it often disguises itself as the mundane. We call this synchronization. Now we must be very careful here. When most people hear the word synchronization, they immediately drift into magical thinking. They imagine thinking of a long-lost friend and having the phone ring 3 seconds later. And while those moments of telepathic resonance certainly happen, that is, the kindergarten level of synchronization, we are talking about something far more structural. We are talking about the practical engineering of your reality. True synchronization is when the next step appears exactly when you need it, but, and this is the crucial condition, only after you have fully completed the current step. You are not frantically searching for opportunities with a flashlight in the dark. You are not kicking down doors trying to force connections, yet relevant opportunities appear, meaningful encounters happen. The resource you need for the project arrives on a Tuesday, exactly 1 day before you actually need to use it. This does not feel like a miracle. It feels reasonable. It feels almost obvious. It feels as if life is finally organized in a way that makes logical sense. It is the sensation of traffic lights turning green just as you approach the intersection. You are finally tuned to the frequency where that hidden organization is visible. The skeptical mind, the mind that is addicted to chaos and struggle, will dismiss this as coincidence. It will say, "You just got lucky." But coincidence, when repeated consistently across multiple domains of your life, financial, relational, creative, becomes a pattern, and a pattern, when trusted and followed, becomes a form of navigation. You stop navigating by force and start navigating by flow. You are surfing the probability waves rather than trying to hold back the ocean. As these responses from reality become more consistent, something profound shifts in your relationship with time. This is perhaps the most relieving aspect of the healing phase. Before this stabilization, time felt like a predator. It felt like something that was constantly chasing you. There was a perpetual pressure to act now or miss your chance forever. There was a low-level panic that you were running out of sand in the hourglass. You felt an urgency to figure everything out, to map the entire trajectory of your life before it was too late. But in the stabilized field, time starts to feel available. It does not necessarily feel infinite. You are still aware of your mortality. You are still aware that seasons change and windows of opportunity open and close. But the frantic quality dissolves completely. The desperation evaporates. You begin to sense your own natural pace. Sometimes that pace is faster than you logically thought it would be. You move with lightning speed because the energy is there. Other times it is much slower, glacial even, but it is yours. It is not a pace borrowed from an influencer on the internet. It is not a pace imposed by your parents or your society. It is the organic rhythm of your own soul. When you move at your own pace, energy stops leaking. Think about how much energy you have wasted in your life by trying to run someone else's race. You were over-functioning in some areas to compensate for under-functioning in others. You were sprinting when you should have been resting and then collapsing when you should have been moving. Now, you do what fits when it fits. You rest when rest is needed, without guilt. You move when the impulse is clear, without hesitation. This is when the people around you start to notice that you have changed. They might not be able to articulate it. They won't say, "Oh, you have stabilized your quantum timeline." They will just say, "You seem different. You seem grounded." They notice it, not because you are announcing your transformation with a megaphone, but because your energy texture is different. You are less reactive. You are less available for their drama. You are less interested in performing for their approval. You become more direct, but not harsh. You become more boundaried, but not defensive. The change shows up in the micro behaviors of your existence. It is in how quickly you end a phone call when the conversation has run its course. You don't linger for 20 minutes out of politeness. You honor the completion of the exchange. It is in how much or how little you share in casual conversations. You no longer spill your energy to people who cannot hold it. It is in what you say yes to, and more importantly, what you quietly decline. Reality has responded not with a single dramatic explosion, but with 1,000 small adjustments that over time accumulate into a completely different trajectory. You are still living your life. You are still chopping wood and carrying water. You are still working, relating, functioning in the three-dimensional world, but the internal experience has shifted from forcing to flowing, from managing to allowing, from controlling to responding. And the most beautiful thing about this state is that you do not need to understand the mechanics of how it happened. You do not need to have a degree in quantum physics. You do not need to track every variable, decode every signal, or explain every change to your therapist. You simply notice that life feels different. It feels lighter. It feels more honest. It feels less effortful. And that difference, unspoken and unclaimed, is the most reliable evidence that your healing phase is doing exactly what it was designed to do. When the internal timeline stabilizes, the external world does not suddenly throw a parade. There is no ticker tape reception. There is no moment where everything clicks into place like a perfect puzzle, and you know with absolute certainty that you have made it. What happens instead is far more subtle, far more stealthy. And because it is subtle, most people miss it entirely. They are still looking for the fireworks while they are living inside the very stability they have been praying for. The first major indicator of this stability is the disappearance of urgency. Note that I did not say the disappearance of ambition. You still have desires, you still have intentions, you still have directions you want to move toward, and mountains you want to climb. But the frantic undercurrent that used to pulse beneath everything you did is gone. That constant nagging whisper of, hurry up, you're going to miss it, everyone else is getting there first. That voice goes silent. You still move forward, but you are no longer running away from the fear of being left behind. You are moving toward a vision, not running from a ghost. This shift in urgency fundamentally changes how you experience your daily life. Small tasks that used to feel heavy with implications suddenly become simple again. Replying to a text message, making a dinner reservation, choosing what to work on this morning, these things lose their existential weight. You respond when you respond. You decide when enough clarity has arrived. You focus on what is directly in front of you without constantly wondering if you should be doing something else, somewhere else, with someone else. Alongside this calmness comes a clearer sense of direction. But this is not the direction of a detailed 5-year plan. It is not a rigid map of where you will be in 10 years, who you will be married to, and exactly how much money will be in your bank account. In this state, direction means something simpler and more profound. You know where you are now, and you can sense what the immediate next step is. Just the next step, not the whole staircase, not the destination, just the one step in front of you. And shockingly, that is enough. You are no longer trying to see the entire path before you are willing to take a single step. You have developed the courage to walk by the light of a lantern rather than demanding the sun be up. This creates a completely different relationship with uncertainty. Before this shift, not knowing felt dangerous. It felt like a threat to your survival. Not knowing meant you might make the wrong choice, waste 3 years of your life and end up in a ditch. Now, not knowing feels neutral. It is just a weather condition. Some things are clear, some things are foggy, and the foggy things do not create the same level of anxiety. You trust that the fog will lift when you get closer. You trust that clarity will arrive when it is needed, not a moment before. Your information diet changes drastically during this phase. You will notice that you are naturally consuming less content. You are scrolling less. You are less interested in hearing 500 different perspectives on the same topic. You are less addicted to searching for the next big insight. You stop collecting tools, frameworks, and spiritual teachings like they are Pokemon cards. This is not because you have become arrogant or think you have learned everything there is to know. It is because you are no longer in deficit. You are not trying to fill a bottomless hole in your soul with information. When information is genuinely useful, you receive it, you apply it. When it is just noise, just entertainment masquerading as wisdom, you sense that instantly and you move on. Your discernment gets razor sharp. You can feel the vibrational difference between content that actually serves your current phase of evolution and content that is just stimulating your mind without adding any nutritional value to your spirit. This is not a judgment. You are not labeling things as good or bad. You are simply attuned to what fits your system and what acts as a toxin, and what does not fit loses its magnetic pull naturally. You don't have to force yourself to put the phone down. You just lose interest. The emotional landscape shifts as well. Do not mistake stability for robotism. Emotions still move through you. You are a human being. You will feel sadness, joy, frustration, anger, and excitement. But the intensity of these emotions becomes proportional to what is actually happening in the physical reality. This is key. Before, a small disappointment, like someone canceling a meeting, might have spiraled into a 3-day narrative about your lack of worthiness. A small win might have been inflated into proof that you are the chosen one. Now, things happen, and you feel the appropriate response. If something is sad, you feel sad. If something is frustrating, you feel frustration. But the feelings move through you like a weather system. They do not get stuck. They do not turn into an identity. They complete themselves. This proportionality is one of the clearest signs of timeline stability. When the observer is stable, emotional reactions match the actual significance of events. You are no longer amplifying the signal or minimizing the signal based on your childhood trauma patterns. You are responding to what is, not to what your history told you it means. Another massive, yet often overlooked change is that the need to perform spirituality drops away. You stop trying to demonstrate to the world that you are awake, evolved, conscious, or on the path. You stop using spiritual jargon to sound impressive. You stop wearing your high vibration like a costume. This is not because you are hiding your light. It is because there is absolutely nothing to prove. You do not need others to validate your state of being to make it real. You do not need to remind yourself in the mirror every morning that you have changed. The changes show up in your behavior so naturally that you barely notice them yourself until something from your old pattern tries to hook you, and you realize, with a start, that it has no place to land. You responded differently without planning to. You didn't have to try to be patient, you just were. You didn't have to try to set a boundary, you just did. You will also find yourself much more comfortable with questions that have no immediate answer. Where you used to rush to fill every silence with speculation, planning, or noise, now you can let the question sit in the room. "I do not know yet" becomes a complete sentence. It is no longer a problem to be solved. It is a valid state of being. And in that spaciousness around not knowing, actual answers have the room to emerge when they are ready to be born. Time itself feels different. It feels less like a linear track you are running on, and more like a medium you are swimming in. You are aware of the passage of days, but you are not controlled by the tyranny of the clock. You do not feel like you are constantly running out of time. You feel like you are inside time, working with it, dancing with it, instead of fighting a war against it. Effort changes its texture too. You still work, you still focus, you still apply energy to your projects, your family, your body. But the effort is clean now. There is no underlying strain. There is no grinding of the gears, no pushing against yourself. When you are done working for the day, you can fully release. You can switch off. You do not need 4 hours of scrolling to numb out and recover from your day. You are not depleting your reserves and then scrambling to refill them. You are moving with sustainable energy, like a solar-powered engine rather than a battery that is constantly dying. When friction appears, and it will appear because you are still on Earth, you do not interpret it as a personal failure anymore. You treat it as data. You treat it as feedback. This direction is not flowing. Interesting. This conversation is not serving the highest good. Okay, this approach is hitting a wall. Noted. The friction tells you where adjustment is needed, and because you are listening, you adjust earlier. You adjust more gently. You adjust with less loss of resources. You are not avoiding all discomfort, but you are not grinding through misalignment just to prove how committed you are to the struggle. Some days, you will look back and realize you just handled a situation that would have completely destabilized you 6 months ago. A crisis at work, a conflict with a partner, a sudden change in plans, and this time, you moved through it with relative ease. You kept your center. You didn't spiral. Not because you are stronger in the brute force sense, but because you are no longer fragmenting under pressure. The observer stayed whole. And when the observer stays whole, reality's feedback stays clear, and you navigate based on accurate information instead of reactive fear. These signs do not announce themselves with trumpets. You won't wake up one Tuesday and realize, aha, my timeline has officially stabilized. You will just notice over the course of weeks and months that you are simply living differently. Less explanation, more action, less performance, more presence, less story, more movement. And that difference, that quiet, unclaimed, humble difference, is the evidence that you are no longer running in the same loop you were circling before. The healing phase does not end with a graduation ceremony where you get a diploma. It ends when you stop tracking it. It ends when you are so integrated into living from this new ground that there is no separate healing phase to reference anymore. It is just life now, and life, when lived from stable observation, does not need to be named, celebrated, or protected. It just continues quietly, precisely, in rhythm with what is actually here. But there is a trap here, a subtle trap that catches the intellectual mind. Awareness and meaning-making look very similar on the surface. They both involve insight. They both involve seeing things differently, but their effects on your reality are completely different. This distinction matters more than almost anything else in the healing phase because it determines whether what you are experiencing actually integrates into your cells or just becomes another layer of conceptual identity to wear like a mask. Most people slip from awareness into meaning-making without ever noticing the transition, and then they wonder why their profound experiences don't seem to actually change how they live their Tuesday afternoons. When pure awareness arises, it does not demand anything from you. It has no agenda. There is no urgency to capture it in a journal, explain it to a friend, or fit it into your existing belief framework. The information lands, and it sits there, stable, available, indifferent. You don't feel like you have achieved something great. You don't feel special. You just know something you didn't know before, and that knowing does not create pressure to do anything immediately. It is complete as it is. It is a full circle. Meaning-making feels radically different. It starts with a similar opening, some insight, some shift in perception, but then, instantly, the mind steps in to complete the story. This means I am finally getting it. This means my third eye is open. This means I have reached level 5. This confirms I am on the right path. That narrative construction, that desperate need to place the experience into a linear framework of personal progress, is where awareness gets converted into food for the ego. The ego loves meaning. It eats meaning for breakfast. It loves to build structures out of clouds. The clearest test to distinguish the two is this: does the experience close questions or open them? Real awareness resolves uncertainty. It acts as a solvent. You might not know what to do with the information yet, but you are no longer stuck in the agonizing question that was creating tension. The wondering stops. The looping stops. Not knowing becomes a comfortable place to rest. Meaning-making does the exact opposite. It creates more questions. What does this mean for my future? How do I keep this state forever? What should I do differently now to maintain this vibration? Who should I tell? The more you explain, the more explanation is required. It is a hydra. Cut off one head, and 2 more grow. Another marker is how you speak about what happened. When awareness is genuinely operating, there is very little impulse to share it. Not because you are being secretive or hoarding wisdom, but because language feels insufficient. Language feels clumsy. The experience completed itself internally. It does not need an audience to be real. It does not seek validation from the external world. But when meaning-making takes over, you feel compelled to tell the story. You feel a burning pressure to describe what happened in a way that confirms it was significant. You need others to nod their heads and agree that yes, you have transformed. This need for external confirmation reveals that the shift hasn't actually landed in the body yet. It is still floating in the mind. True integration is wordless. It shows in behavior, not declaration. You stop doing certain things without announcing you are stopping. You start responding differently without explaining why to anyone. The change is so natural, so organic, that even you barely notice it until much later. The behavioral impact is where awareness and meaning-making diverge most clearly. Awareness simplifies how you act. It strips away the unnecessary, fewer unnecessary conversations, earlier exits from situations that do not serve, more selective use of your time and energy. These adjustments happen organically, without internal negotiation or debate. Meaning-making, on the other hand, creates performative behavior. It changes how you present yourself to the world. You adjust your speech patterns to sound more spiritual. You curate an image of who you think you have become. That performance requires constant maintenance. It consumes fuel, and anything requiring maintenance is not stable. If you have to prop it up, it is not standing on its own. Here is what the human mind does with absolute brilliance. It builds frameworks that sound completely reasonable. It creates explanations that feel true. It constructs meaning that seems to fit perfectly into the puzzle of your life. But you must learn this distinction. Reasonable does not equal accurate. The mind can justify almost anything if it serves the desperate need to feel like progress is happening. The mind is a lawyer, and it will argue the case for its own limitations with passion and logic. Real awareness does not need reasonableness. It does not need a logical defense. It needs operational consistency. This is the metric you must start using. Does life actually get lighter? Do the contradictions in your behavior actually reduce? Is there less internal friction when you move through your day? If the answer is yes, then awareness is present. If the answer is no, if you feel heavier, more confused, more conflicted, then you are living in a well-constructed castle of meaning, but it is a castle built on sand. One of the subtlest, most elusive signs of awareness versus meaning-making is what happens to the mechanism of self-monitoring. When awareness integrates, you track your state less frequently. You are not constantly checking in with yourself like a nervous security guard. Am I still clear? Am I losing the vibration? Am I doing this right? You simply return to living. You return to the raw experience of existence, and within that living, clarity expresses itself through ordinary moments. Meaning-making, however, increases self-observation. You become hyper-aware of how you're doing. You're constantly measuring yourself against the image of who you think you should be. This splits your attention. One part of you is living, and one part of you is watching yourself live. That split is fragmentation disguised as self-awareness. It is not presence. It is surveillance. We must also talk about imagination. Imagination is not the enemy here. Imagination serves creativity, vision, and possibility. It is a divine tool. However, the problem emerges when imagination fills in what is not clear yet. When the mind uses imagination to complete stories before the actual ending has arrived, you are in trouble. Awareness can hold not knowing without discomfort. It can stand in the void. Meaning-making cannot stand the void. It needs an answer, any answer, to resolve the tension of uncertainty. So the mind fabricates meaning to soothe itself. It uses the special effects department of your imagination to paint over the blank spots on the map. And that fabricated meaning becomes a filter that distorts everything that comes after. You stop seeing reality. You start seeing your own projected solution to anxiety. There is a specific capacity that develops as you distinguish between these two states. It is the ability to catch yourself right before the mind completes the story. You feel the impulse to explain, the impulse to label, the impulse to solidify the fluid moment into a rigid concept. You do not have to stop it forcefully. Force creates resistance. You simply have to recognize the movement toward meaning early enough that you can simply pause. In that pause, the compulsion to explain usually fades on its own. You do not have to fight your imagination. You just stop letting it lead the expedition. As this distinction becomes clearer, you will find that you interpret less and live more. This is not because you are becoming unconscious or indifferent. It is because you are finally trusting reality's self-correcting nature. When coherence is maintained, you do not need to assign deep spiritual significance to every single fluctuation in your day. Some experiences matter, some do not. Some leave traces, some pass completely like a breeze. And not everything has to become part of your personal mythology. Not everything is a sign, not everything is a lesson. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. This creates a particular kind of freedom that is difficult to describe until you have tasted it. You are no longer carrying yourself as a project under construction. You are not a house that is constantly being renovated. You are not measuring where you are on some imagined path to enlightenment. The path continues, of course, but it does not need constant evaluation. Awareness does not accumulate like trophies on a shelf. It updates. It is like software. Each update clarifies the present moment. It does not add to your conceptual understanding. It removes what was obscuring direct perception. When you trust this process, you become less attracted to the promises of deeper, higher, more intense experiences. You stop seeking the peak states that burn bright and fade fast, and you start valuing baseline precision. Precision is not dramatic. It does not create stories worth telling at a dinner party. It simply fits. It works. It allows life to function with less friction. And I tell you now, that friction reduction is worth more than 1,000 transcendent moments that do not actually change how you move through daily existence. Awareness does not need protection from imagination. It only needs to not be interfered with. When left alone, it stands on its own foundation. When it stands, it stops needing names, labels, or explanations. At this point in your healing, the question shifts. It shifts from, what did I just experience, to, is life operating with less resistance? If the answer is yes, awareness is doing its work. If the answer is no, you are likely spending too much energy maintaining the story of awareness instead of living from it. This does not diminish the journey. It makes it real. Real shifts do not require belief. They do not require memory. They do not require you to hold on to them with a death grip. They integrate so completely into how you function that they become invisible. And invisible shifts, the ones that leave no trace except changed behavior, are the only ones that last. Now we move into the culmination of this process, the concept of living from completion without effort. The completion you are looking for will not arrive as a definitive moment. There will be no ceremony. There will be no clear boundary line where you step over and say, yesterday I was healing, today I am healed. What you will notice instead, probably 3 or 4 months from now, is that you stopped asking whether you were still in the process. The question became irrelevant, not because you found an answer, but because the question itself completed its function and dissolved into the ether. This completion does not carry the energy of triumph. It carries the energy of precision. You won't feel like you have achieved something monumental. You will simply realize you are no longer efforting to hold yourself in any particular state. The questions that once drove you forward, am I doing this right? Am I far enough along? Am I finally there? Those questions will have lost their charge. They will be dead batteries. Life does not shrink when this happens. It gets closer. It gets more intimate. Ordinary moments start revealing a depth you overlooked before because you were too busy looking for the extraordinary. A morning that holds nothing remarkable, yet nothing wrong. A conversation that is not profound, but is not false either. A work day that does not drain you, but does not necessarily excite you. And that is perfectly fine. You stop needing peak experiences to confirm you are living correctly. Alignment shows up in the smallest details, and those details do not require commentary. As your presence stabilizes here, something shifts in how you trust. This is not blind faith. This is not closing your eyes and hoping for the best. This is trust built from repeated empirical experience. You have gathered the data. You have seen that when you do not interfere prematurely, information arrives exactly when it is needed, not before, which would create overwhelm, and not after, which would create crisis. It arrives right on time. This is not magical thinking, it is pattern recognition. You have watched it happen enough times that you stop second-guessing the timing of the universe. You do not need to see 10 steps ahead anymore. You only need clarity for the next one. And consistently, inevitably, that is what arrives. Stop here. Continue there. Say no to this. Say yes to that. The instructions are simple, almost too simple, which is why most people overlook them while searching for more complex, esoteric guidance. But simple accumulates. Small, clear choices made repeatedly over time create entirely different trajectories. What once exhausted you reveals itself differently now. Most of your fatigue was not from the difficulty of the tasks you were performing. It was from the constant self-correction. It was from the perpetual internal negotiation. It was from the exhausting maintenance of being who you thought you should be. When that maintenance ends, energy returns. It does not return in dramatic surges that blow out your nervous system. It returns as a sustainable availability. You have a full tank. You can engage fully and then release fully without that residue of incompletion that used to linger for days. You will notice shifts in how you relate to people too, not through withdrawal, but through clarity. You no longer feel compelled to explain yourself, convince others, or defend your choices. When alignment is present, you stay. When it is not, you leave earlier and with less guilt. Relationships stop being places to confirm your worth and become spaces to simply be present together. This does not create distance. It creates authenticity. Uncertainty becomes less threatening. You can move forward without guarantees. You can make choices without knowing if they are perfect. You can commit to directions while staying open to adjustment. This is not recklessness. It is fluidity. You are responding to feedback in real time rather than trying to predict and control everything in advance. Mistakes happen, but you recognize them faster. Corrections become lighter. Consequences do not compound the way they used to. Looking back at the entire process, you will see that nothing was actually added to you. No new abilities, no special powers, no elevated consciousness. Just layers of interference gradually falling away. Each layer that dropped made life slightly simpler. That simplicity is not poverty. It is precision. It allows your energy to go where it is actually needed instead of scattering across the maintenance of images, states, and stories. True completion feels open, not closed. It is open to days that do not require meaning, open to choices that do not need theoretical justification, open to living without constantly auditing whether you are doing it right. When the foundation stabilizes, that question disappears, and when it disappears, you do not feel incomplete. You feel light. This does not make you passive. It makes you responsive. You are not pushed by fear or pulled by fantasy. You respond to what is present. And because you are responding to what is actually there rather than what you wish were there, you drift less. Not because you are more disciplined, but because you are no longer chasing directions that were never yours to begin with. At this point, there is nothing left to pursue internally. That does not mean life loses depth. Depth stops being found by going inward and disconnecting from the world, and starts being found by staying with what is happening without distorting it. You do not need to separate from life to observe it. You observe while living, and that allows awareness to continue without effort, without maintenance, without the fear that you will lose it if you look away. This completion does not ask for remembrance. It does not need to be preserved or repeated. It maintains itself naturally as long as you do not return to the habit of self-interference. And even when you do, because you will occasionally, you are human, nothing is permanently lost. You simply notice the interference earlier and stop. Not to return to a state, but to return to the ground that has been there all along. What remains is not a conclusion. It is a way of being. It is living with less noise, fewer stories, less need for validation, but with more clarity in the 1,000 small choices that actually shape a life. When you live this way, no one needs to announce that the healing phase is complete. There is nothing left to complete. There is only presence continuing quietly, precisely, exactly as needed for reality to meet you where you are. But before we close this transmission, we must address the final barrier, the barrier of identity reformation. Even as you stabilize, even as you find this flow, the ego has one last survival mechanism. It will try to claim the stability itself. It will try to say, I am the stable one. It will try to build a monument to its own non-attachment. This is subtle, slippery territory. You might find yourself judging those who are still in the chaos. You might find yourself feeling a secret pride in how unbothered you are. This is the ego sneaking in the back door. If you catch this happening, do not fight it. Just see it. See it as a cloud passing through the clear sky of your awareness. It is just another thought. It is just another pattern. It does not mean you have lost your ground. It just means the old programming is echoing one last time before it fades into silence. Treat it with indifference. Do not feed it with guilt and do not feed it with agreement. Just let it be. This level of existence, this living from completion, is not a static place where nothing ever goes wrong. The tires will still go flat. The rains will still fall. The challenges will still arrive at your doorstep, but you will meet them without the extra baggage of, "Why is this happening to me?" You will meet them without the victim story. You will meet them as events to be navigated, not as punishments to be endured. This shifts the entire geometry of your suffering. Suffering is resistance to what is. When resistance drops, suffering transforms into simple pain or discomfort, which is manageable, temporary, and clean. You become a conduit. You become a vessel through which life can experience itself without the distortion of a terrified ego constantly grabbing the steering wheel. You become the space in which the universe can finally exhale. And in that exhalation, in that profound relaxation of the will, you find the only thing you were ever actually looking for. You don't find the answer, you find the end of the question. Think about the energy you are saving. Think about the massive amounts of processing power that were previously tied up in maintaining your defenses, your masks, your spiritual resume. All of that power is now available for creation. It is available for connection. It is available for joy. Not the manic joy of winning, but the quiet joy of being. This is the quantum dividend. This is the return on investment for all the inner work you have done. It is not paid out in gold coins. It is paid out in presence. And presence, when it is true, when it is unforced, is the most magnetic force in the universe. It draws to you exactly what belongs to you, and it repels exactly what does not. You do not have to work the room. You do not have to manipulate the variables. You just have to stand there in your own truth and let the physics of consciousness do the heavy lifting. You are entering a phase where the work is no longer about digging. It is about allowing. It is about trusting the seed you have already planted. You do not need to dig it up every 3 hours to check the roots. You need to water it with your attention. Give it the sunlight of your presence and let the intelligence of life handle the growth. The struggle is over if you want it to be. The war is finished if you lay down your weapon. The healing is done if you stop picking at the scab. You are ready. You have always been ready. The only difference now is that you know it, and that knowing changes everything. We are now standing at the very edge of the map. We have traversed the landscape of stabilization, navigated the treacherous waters of meaning-making, and arrived at the shores of completion. But you must understand that completion, in the quantum sense, is not a dead end. It is not a period at the end of a sentence. It is an ellipsis. It is a doorway. When the healing phase truly ends, it does not end with a celebration of what you have accomplished. It ends with the quiet, powerful commencement of what you are here to contribute. You are no longer a project to be fixed. You are a vessel to be used. And I do not mean used in the sense of manipulation. I mean used by the intelligence of life itself to broadcast a signal that this planet desperately needs. This is the shift from being the observer to being the transmitter. For years, you have been in intake mode. You have been consuming books, consuming videos, consuming workshops, trying to fill the void, trying to stabilize the wobble in your field. That was necessary. That was the gestation period. But you cannot stay in the womb forever. At some point, the intake must stop, and the output must begin. This output is not about preaching. It is not about standing on a street corner and shouting about awakening. It is about the physics of entrainment. When a piano wire is tuned perfectly to the key of C and you strike a tuning fork in the key of C across the room, the piano wire will begin to vibrate without being touched. That is resonance. That is physics. And that is exactly what you are becoming. You are becoming a living tuning fork. When you walk into a room now, you are bringing a stabilized field with you. You enter a chaotic meeting at work, or a tense family dinner, or a crowded subway car, and you do not need to say a single word. Your very presence acts as a dampener for the noise. Your stability offers a subconscious reference point for everyone else's instability. People will feel calmer around you, and they won't know why. They will feel safer, and they won't be able to explain it. They will find themselves dropping their defenses, softening their voices, and breathing deeper, simply because your field is broadcasting a silent command. It is safe to be here. It is safe to stop fighting. This is how you change the world. You do not change it by arguing with it. You do not change it by forcing your truth down its throat. You change it by becoming such a stable, unshakable anchor of presence that the world has no choice but to reorganize itself around you. This is the ultimate responsibility of the stabilized observer. You are not just doing this for yourself anymore. You are holding a frequency for the collective. You are one of the acupuncture needles placed precisely in the meridian of humanity to relieve the pressure. Do not underestimate the power of this. The mind wants to dismiss it. The mind says, I am just one person, what can I do? But in the quantum field, there are no small actions. There is only resonance. One stabilized individual is more powerful than 10,000 unconscious people running on fear. One candle conquers the darkness of an entire room. You are that candle. And the healing phase was simply the process of lighting the wick. Now that the flame is burning, your only job is to shield it from the wind and let it shine. As you integrate this reality, you will find that your desire to save people evaporates. This sounds cold to the ego, but it is actually the deepest form of love. When you try to save people, you are seeing them as broken. You are seeing them as victims. You are validating their powerlessness. But when you stand in your own stability, you see them as sleeping gods. You see them as potential waiting to ignite. You hold space for their greatness, not their smallness. And often, that silent belief, that refusal to buy into their drama, is the catalyst that finally allows them to wake up. You will stop joining people in their suffering. You will stand on the bank of the river and throw them a rope. But you will no longer jump into the freezing water to drown with them in the name of empathy. True empathy is staying dry, so you have the leverage to pull them out. This boundary is what allows you to serve without burning out. It allows you to love without losing yourself. It allows you to be a lighthouse that stands firm on the rock rather than a boat tossing in the storm. And now, I want to invite you to do something to seal this transmission. This is not just a passive consumption of content. This is an energetic contract you are making with yourself. The field responds to declaration. It responds to the clear, unambiguous signal of intent. We are going to ground this energy right now, in the physical dimension. I want you to go to the comment section below, but I do not want you to write a long story. I do not want you to write a paragraph about your struggles. We are done with the story of struggle. I want you to leave just one word, one single word. This word should represent the specific energy you are choosing to embody in this next phase of your existence. Not what you hope to get, not what you are trying to manifest, but the frequency you are already becoming available to. The frequency that is already alive in your chest. Is it trust? Is it power? Is it silence? Is it flow? Is it clarity? Find the word that resonates with the core of your being. The word that makes your solar plexus vibrate, and drop that word below like a heavy stone into a deep lake. This is not for the algorithm. This is for you. This is a signature. This is you carving your name into the bedrock of this new timeline. When you type that word, you're telling the quantum field, this is who I am now. This is where I stand. This is the signal I am broadcasting. Do not overthink it. The first word that came to your mind is the right one. Trust that impulse. That impulse is the intelligence of the future you, reaching back to give you a clue. Leave it below. Let it stand as a monument to your arrival. And as you see the other words appear from other people around the world, recognize that you are not doing this alone. You are part of a vast, invisible grid of consciousness that is waking up, stabilizing, and coming online. Each comment is another light turning on in the dark. Each word is another node in the network activating. Feel the strength of that connection. We are building a web of stability that spans the globe. If this transmission has landed in your system in a way that feels different from the usual noise, if it has touched something real, something ancient, something that requires no hype and no sales pitch, then I invite you to take the next step with us. This channel is not for entertainment. We are not here to distract you from your life. We are here to return you to it. We are here to dismantle the illusions that keep you small and to hand you the keys to your own quantum vehicle. If you are ready to expand your consciousness and step into your next quantum leap, subscribe now. Do not just click the button. Make a choice. Choose to align with a stream of information that honors your intelligence and your divinity. Choose to stay in the conversation that matters. Leave your comment below. Share this message with someone who is ready to awaken, someone who has been asking for the sign, someone who is tired of the struggle and ready for the breakthrough. Be the agent of clarity in their life. Be the synchronicity they have been praying for. The healing phase is over. The living phase has begun. The search is finished. The discovery is just starting. You are the one you have been waiting for. You are the technology. You are the path. You are the destination. Walk in that knowing. Breathe in that stability and watch how the universe bends to meet you.